What is up, you sinners and saints, my fellow godless peoples? Welcome back to The Rage. Today is going to just be a short clip from the Apostate Alliance, which airs every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Catch it live and enjoy the clip.
Welcome to the Apostate Alliance. This is episode number 10. We're joined by a lovely lady from the land down under, Nick. Hi, Nick. And my lovely co-host, Faye, the Most Gracious, is with us today again. Matter of fact, if you could vamp for me for a second there, Faye. No, I'm just kidding. But I bookmarked some tweets here with some stories, one of which I'm not going to mention right now, something that Nick will tell you about when we get to the interview portion. But, you know, there was quite a number of stories that were put out on Twitter about just, like I said before on this podcast, like terrible things happening to people in Muslim countries, you know, not just because of being ex-Muslim, but the things that happen to especially, you know, females in some of these Muslim countries at a very young age, being married off. There was a couple of different stories on Twitter with video, you know, showing these very young girls, not women, they're girls, like the children being married off to 60 and 80-year-old men. And the one video I saw, the girl was trying to get away. I mean, it broke my heart. I mean, they had to basically chase her down, and she had to be made to go through with this. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. I mean, it made me cry to even see it. You know, I'm a mid-50s man, and it brought me to tears just to see this little clip of this horrible thing happening to a child that should be able to be innocent and, you know, enjoy their childhood. And here they are, they're being married off to some old fart, you know. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. But now I'm not an ex-Muslim as my co-host and our guests are. So, you know, I'd like to throw it over them and you know, allow them to comment on the idea of the child marriages.
I mean, I've beaten this topic to death, and I'm still in vacation mode, if I'm being completely honest.
Right.
Over the last week, I've been avoiding social media as much as possible. I haven't posted anything on YouTube except on Wednesday, where I reposted some stuff. I've been living with friends over the last week, eating junk food. Like, I'm very much still in vacation mode. But this whole topic of child marriage, and specifically about the Prophet Muhammad's marriage to a young girl, Aisha, and his rape of her, is a topic that I've beaten to death, and I've said quite publicly that I will not address again, because it's honestly just so disgusting to see how many people will justify it. It's just... It's a reality that a lot of us just can't fathom if we're living here in the West.
I mean, and to both of you, is this why this happens in Islam and in the, you know, more traditional Muslim countries, is because of the fact that they can point to Muhammad married a young girl too? Is that part of how they justify doing it?
Yeah, he married a 6-year-old, and then had sex with her when she was 9, and that's pretty well documented. So anything Muhammad does is pretty much fair game, unless he specifically says you can't do it.
Also, you have to take into consideration that in Islam, you're seen as a woman once you've hit puberty. So that could be as soon as you've got your period. Now, girls are getting their periods as young as 7 and 8, and so by Islamic standing and essentially rulings, she's an adult. She is, everything that she does from the moment she gets her period and has hit puberty, she is now regarded as an adult according to things like her good deeds, her bad deeds, sinning, prayer, like all of the rules that apply to an adult will now apply to her. And when you see something as pivotal as a period as being she's now a woman, it does come along with the other aspects of it. And, when you are in societies where, this sort of thing doesn't really happen too often in the West, but it does happen in, definitely in the Middle East and North Africa. But even then, in the West, there are stories of 15-year-old girls and 16-year-old girls being forced into marriage. It is something that is common, and it does happen. And unfortunately, it happens too often for this to be regarded as a cultural thing. When it happens in Somalia, it happens in Pakistan, it happens in Saudi, it happens in Qatar, and it does happen in Western countries. So you can see that the common factor with all of these is the fact that there is a religion that these people abide by, and there's a man that they essentially put on this pillar as being the final messenger of God, and he can do no wrong, and he has done no wrong. And yes, he married Aisha, and she was a 6-year-old, but he didn't do it until she was 9, and which is when you read the stories, could potentially have been when she did end up with her period. And there are no denying that she's a child. Like Faye said, there are hadith of, her playing with dolls and playing with, pretending that it was Solomon, and, her friends coming and running away when Muhammad came to see her. So there are all these regulations, and there is nothing denying it.
And I think the other thing is that she turned 18 in the same year that he died, and he was about 64 or something like that. Which means that he only exclusively had sex with her while she was a child, by today's standards, of course. And I guess there is an argument to be made that the times were different and things like that. But if this man is meant to be a example for all time, I don't think that matters, really.
I've dealt with that argument for years, and raised as a Muslim, you hear, the instant rebuttals to it. Oh, well, Henry VIII married a 12-year-old, and other European kings have done this. And the easiest way to shut that down is no one puts Henry VIII on a pillar. Muhammad's the one that gets put on that pillar. He gets put on to being this perfect human being. And it doesn't matter that times have changed. You can still turn around and say, yeah, Muhammad did marry a 6-year-old, but I don't agree with it. But Muslims are too afraid to say that, because if they say that, then they're going against their religion and their beliefs.
Suddenly, he's not a perfect man.
And I never really understood that argument either, that okay, well, it was a different time. We can't judge them by our standards. My response to that is always, well, yes, we can. I mean, just because it was a different time doesn't mean that it was right. And we know that it wasn't right now. So yes, we can judge that.
There are a lot of things that you can forgive if you are suddenly like, well, it was a different time. There are, you can justify colonialism, you can justify murder, you can justify raping and pillaging. It was a different time. So what? It's so fucking stupid.
I think the reason why Muslims don't want to admit that this one thing is absolutely horrible and actually say it is because if they say that one thing is a horrible thing that Muhammad did, it opens the door to the many other things that he did that were also horrible, and nobody wants to have their heroes taken down. And that's essentially how Muslims see it.
This is more than a hero, though. But I mean, I feel like we're going into that territory. Was there anything else you wanted to announce?
Right, yeah.